If I left anything lost, send it to your friends and they call your friends. Baby, never mind, never mind, never mind, never mind, never mind, never mind.
Welcome to Hair Matters, a podcast from Boston. I am Noelle. I own a salon with Aurora called Noelle's Salon. In our industry, we are blessed to meet so many wonderful people. We have a large trans community. Today, our special guest is Allie. Hello, Allie.
Hi.
Allie, she is absolutely gorgeous, and I just fell in love with everything she is. You walked into the salon, and everybody's heads just turned because you are one hot chick.
That's you're so nice.
Well, it's very true, and you know how I feel about you. And there's so much more to you, and I think you can actually help a lot of women or trans women in the trans community in explaining some of your journey as well as some beauty tips, because I'm going to be posting pictures of you, and you are, like I said, I don't mean to, you are just amazing. You look fabulous. I think what we should do is let's talk a bit about you.
Well, I can tell you I'm 55 and recently retired.
Lucky you.
Yes, I retired last year, and so I have a whole new life to live.
How long have you been living as a
Well, I've
female?
been full-time for about 5 years.
5 years, okay.
Yeah, just about 5
That's
years.
not that long.
Not really. I transitioned late in my life for reasons due to my age and the era of which I grew up in. It wasn't, a time when people who were trans could express themselves. So
Completely taboo.
yeah, oh yeah. If you were, it was probably bad enough to be gay, and if you were someone like me, it was just like it was a crucifiable offense.
And you had to live in silence.
Absolutely, absolutely. But as I grew up, it was just me, my sister, and my mom, and I lived myself just like any other girl at the time, up until the point when my mom, because she was a single woman and in the 60s, she ended up remarrying, and my stepfather, he really put an end to me being myself, and that was.
In what way do you mean?
He was very physically and mentally abusive, and
You didn't discuss anything with him? This is just his
no, it was
impression
just,
of you?
Yeah, it was just my being.
Yeah.
I was a very feminine-looking child. I looked like a girl. My hair was long.
Which it's a blessing to you today,
Yes,
transitioning. It certainly is. But I can imagine that would have been just heart-wrenching to have to deal with
it
that.
was horrible. I mean, really. And he has since passed away for many years, and I don't harbor any ill will towards anyone. And you're looking back at that time period and when people were very regimented in structure.
Well, there's such a high level of ignorance even today.
And today, absolutely.
So you can just imagine what you had to go through.
Yes.
Yes.
And so, but up until the point where my mom, ended up remarrying, like I said, I lived as a girl. I wore girl clothes, me and my sister.
And you went to high school as a girl?
Not as a girl,
no.
When I ended up, I think it was probably when I was like 5 or so, maybe a little bit younger, when my mom ended up remarrying and things really, really came to an end for me as far as being expressive towards myself. And my stepfather shaved all my hair off, and I was devastated.
Absolutely.
Devastated.
Oh.
Devastated. I spent time in an orphanage with my sister.
Oh my goodness.
Because when you're trans, it's not something that you want to be.
Of course.
It's something that you are. you're born that way. And people may disagree with me on that, but if you have a child who's transgender,
I was going to ask you that.
you absolutely know the difference. You can see it immediately. I have kids. My boys are boys and my daughter's a girl. So, I mean, so my point is that if you have a trans son or daughter, you're going to recognize it immediately. You're going to see something that's different, and you'll hear stories of people. There's actually a woman in Texas who has a very good YouTube story about her daughter who's transitioned. And she was a very devout Catholic, religious person, and her daughter's trans. And she knew it right away.
So
she knew it.
so if a child expresses this, believe them. For the most part, you have to listen. And if a child is identifying, I mean, I know at a certain age we all like the same things where we're genderless.
Yeah, but as a trans, if you're a trans girl, it's just instinctive, just like any other girl that of that same age bracket. You're just going to act exactly like that. You're going to be gravitated towards those type of things, and we're all not like girlies and so much as like dolls and things like that. But you're going to gravitate towards.
But so much of it is conditional too. I mean, my mom handed me a doll, and she handed my brothers a train set. So of course those are what we see, and a lot of it's learned behavior. But I can understand working with so many people and having so many candid conversations. This is something that we know, from a young age.
You do, and as we mature and as we're brought up by families and society brings us up as well, and we're made to fit this mold, and no one wants to be different. No one wants to be the outcast, and because it doesn't feel right. And so when you know that you're trans and you're being forced to assume this role, and you don't feel right, you suffer from a lot of inner turmoil that in conflict that's going on. In one phase you want to be yourself, but in another phase you're looking at your anatomy, and your anatomy is telling you, well, you're supposed to be this way, and all the while that this is not true. This is not, it's just something inside, and so with the help of hormones and transition, we can eventually reach that point in our lives where we fix what was wrong with us from the beginning.
Right. Well, what I find fascinating, I know you've told me something in the past a little different than what I've heard from other trans women, but what I've heard and what I've witnessed is that in order to fight this, so many people, and I'm talking about older, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, the women have taken on such masculine jobs. You were in the Marines. You were a police officer. I know that you did this somewhat different for other reasons, to maybe sort of build a wall around yourself. Was that what it was?
Yes. I mean, again, in a way, you feel different, and you don't want to be different. And
so
so you're fighting that battle within yourself by
but some of
achieving
the work
these.
is just this work is super masculine, as most would think.
Yeah, there's a lot of and that's because you're trying to compensate for that lack of genuine masculinity.
But I also think, like you said, building a wall around yourself in a way to protect yourself.
Absolutely.
And keep yourself strong and bold.
Yes, because you're afraid of you build that sort of character around yourself so that you can live somewhat in societies.
Some normalcy.
Yeah, and then you go back home and you're you for a lot of folks, you're probably by yourself, or you're struggling at home with family members, and a lot of people suffer to the point where they they choose suicide as a way out.
Oh, I know.
So
I know.
and it's very tragic, because some people don't ever want anyone to ever know. And so
It's so sad in today's day and age that we have to feel this way. And thankfully it's out there more.
today it is. Today there's been
The last even 5 years, it's been so much more to the forefront. I've been working with transgender women for, 15 years. But that being said, they were always closeted and really not out. Not truly out. Maybe 10% were truly living life as a woman 100%.
it's
15 years ago.
Yeah, it's a very
Well, you have family.
it's a lifestyle change.
Yeah,
You're
and
right.
your family's involved, and
Financial reasons.
oh goodness, yeah.
Your job. Maybe your job is not conducive to you transitioning. There's plenty of people who have lost their jobs because they've transitioned or chosen to transition at work. I mean, we look at the military, which is going on now. So these are all factors that have to be considered when you choose transition.
Right.
As a really the final step in making yourself whole.
Well, it's in our salon. I find that we meet people in the beginning stages of the transition. I think we talked about this before. The hair, and also the laser hair removal, that electrolysis. So we're at the forefront. And at some point, Allie, I have to tell you, I am so heartbroken with some of the people coming through, just lost, not really knowing how to start, where to start. And what saddens me is there's just not a lot of places for them to go. Yes, they can talk to a therapist. Even the therapist is trying to resolve something and not so much embrace them and help them. So for me, I just receive so much from the fact that I'm helping people, and they reach out to me all the time, and I've made many friends.
Yes, I mean,
But where do you start? Where do you start to accept yourself? Where do you start to tell your family?
that's a personal decision that belongs to each and every person that decides to transition. Me personally, I mean, I ended up, researching thanks to the internet when it came around, and even then, when I started to research, and I was in denial by myself. I'm like, I can't be like that, because at that time too, there was sort of a stigma associated with being trans. They were sort of looked at as deviants and things like that, and I did not want to be like that. I didn't want to be considered someone like that, because I knew I wasn't.
Of course.
And so the first part is acknowledging it, and then finding legitimate support groups with like-minded or likewise people.
Do you know of one in the Boston area?
Yes. Fenway Health
Yes, I'm very familiar
is a
with
very, very good place to start with support networking. And they have a very knowledgeable staff that run the program. And Fenway Health is very active in the LGBT community, and they offer services through their health organization. And it's a very safe environment. People can come in the gender that they identify with if they so choose. Some people do, some people don't. So that is a very good place to start. And you can hear firsthand stories of people who, have something to share and some, knowledge of their background. And maybe some people have achieved that final stage in their journey. And And I remember the first time I went there, I saw everyone staring at me, and I felt so awkward. And it was because people didn't think I was trans when I went there.
Yes, I can
And
understand
they were
that.
wondering, someone had came up to me and asked me, after the meeting, we were wondering why you were here, because it was for trans people. And I actually got very emotional because, they some people sort of idolized me, and I didn't feel as though I was someone to be idolized.
I would. I think there's so
I
much
know.
more. I think there's so much more to you than just the beauty. I think there's an essence and a confidence you exude, but your essence is truly feminine. And to me, that shows me you've done a lot of work, even because you allowed that to eventually come out. Because I'm sure you had to suppress it at some point.
Oh, I did. I mean, it's, as far as my femininity goes, it is just, I feel as though it's just instinctively natural for me. Like all our body mannerisms, and, your walk and the way you sit and things like that. Things that, portray feminism.
But that's something that can
Even
be
my
learned.
voice.
Yes, for you.
Like my voice.
Right.
Like when I was at work, I would have to express a masculine presence, and be conscientious of my myself, amongst my coworkers who are mostly all male. I can remember one guy. He made a comment to me because of my shape, and he's a very masculine person, and he's kept always bragging about always going to the gym and things like that, and he tried to poke fun at me and like, well, what are you? I'm going to the gym, and he said, what are you gonna go do? And I said, I'm gonna go home and shave my legs.
Love it.
Good
for you. Good for you. Yes.
And he didn't know what to say. I hadn't come
yeah.
out at that time. He didn't know what to say.
You gave him food for thought, though.
Yeah, and then I said to him, I go, what are you going to go to the gym for, to watch? And so he didn't appreciate that. But so I used to get picked on for things because of the way I looked, and
Right.
sometimes I would catch myself sitting very feminine, and someone would make a comment, and
well, being born or being trans today as a teenager, that's just amazing what you can do. That a lot of these younger children, this generation coming up, will have no idea what you and others had to go through in your transition, because they've had they had puberty suppression. Is that what it's called? Pardon my ignorance.
Yes.
Okay, so they don't have the hormones flooding in to make them male, because I do work with a lot of people that are over 6 feet tall, and they look great, but it's a little tough, because they've lost some hair maybe along the way.
Yes.
The beard is difficult.
Yes, there's young trans people today are very fortunate, and they're fortunate because of the pioneers who have set the stage
Exactly.
for them to be in a position where they don't have to suffer through that second stage of puberty.
And they don't have a whole life established.
No,
as
exactly.
a male,
right?
and
They
then
go to
have
school
exactly.
as their gender. Even if they first start out in grade school, they maintain that sort of I guess unisex look, and then once they start to venture into junior high and high school, they're basically on hormones at that point, and so they never achieve a male image.
They don't go through puberty.
No, they don't go through male puberty. They pretty much go through female puberty.
Right.
And whereas someone who's in their 30s, 40s, 50s, they've gone through that male puberty stage.
Live their life as a male.
Live their life as a male. Have
Possibly have
established
family,
a family,
exactly.
or an image of themselves as this whoever they were, and maybe try to mask their femininity through you know, excessive exercise and bulking, like,
Yes.
weightlifting
Yes.
and maybe
Yes.
taking steroids and things like that
Correct.
that are unhealthy for even normal people. And so, they've really done a lot of damage to their bodies. And so transitioning in for maybe someone like that is going to be difficult, even if you are on hormones, even if you have certain surgeries to make corrections. It's going to be pretty difficult. And so it's a tough battle. It's
It
it's
is.
definitely an uphill
I
battle.
see so many desperate people. So years ago, when Caitlyn Jenner came out and she was on the cover of Vanity Fair, because we are well known in the community for working with transgender clients, I had every news station, come down, interview me, interview some of my clients. Do you think? What do you think of Caitlyn Jenner?
Well, I think what she did was she really opened up the book of conversation as when she came out.
But people just say she's crazy, and it's kind of sad that that has to be the case.
People thought, okay, she's just looking for attention. She's already a celebrity.
Nobody does what she did for
You know,
attention.
no, you don't. You don't
No.
transition for attention.
No.
That's not the reason why. But that being said, I mean, she has the ability, to make a lot of physical corrections. She's, privileged, that she can afford some of the very expensive surgeons that provide facial feminization surgeries and maybe some body contouring surgeries, to achieve a look that she feels comfortable with.
It's
But
kind of unfortunate for others who
Yes,
can't.
because mainstream transgender society does not have those abilities.
The resources, the
No,
money, the insurance
don't.
coverage. You said to me before that there are places that do cover the feminization and transition.
There are some places where you will be covered. There's companies that are very active in the LGBT community, and they're very supportive of trans people, and so they offer packages through their insurance providers. Amazon is one, Starbucks is another one, and a lot of the airline industries. JetBlue, I actually met a very attractive trans woman at a job fair who worked for JetBlue. And so there's companies out there that are very supportive of the trans community, and they see their usefulness in the in the employment industry, and so they.
It's a much bigger population than one would imagine.
There really is. I mean, there's it's not a huge amount, but it's a significant amount, and they can be very productive workers, if
Sure.
given the opportunity to just be themselves and and support whatever agency or work group that they may be employed by.
So have you had facial feminization, FFS?
I have. I went to India and I had it done.
You brave woman.
Yes, that was a 17-hour flight.
Oh my
It
goodness.
was very spooky.
And how long did you stay there?
I stayed there for just about a month, maybe a little bit, about a month. I had it done through a company called Priya Med, which is ran by a trans woman named Jane. And the doctor who performed my surgery was Talang, and he's a very gifted surgeon.
And people can find them online.
They can find them online on various social media sites, Facebook, Instagram. They can look up Talang, and he's
How do you spell that?
Telang.
Talang. Okay.
He's a very gifted surgeon.
Absolutely.
Done many trans girls that I had the pleasure of either meeting or seeing their results.
What I notice about your surgery is it's very natural. And unfortunately, some of the people I've interacted with, their feminization surgery is just, they all look the same. It's carbon copies. It's like they stamped out the exact procedure. And it's just like any type of plastic surgery, whether you're cis or trans, we all don't want to have the same face. I like the natural look that you have. It's soft. Your cheekbones aren't like overdone. Obviously, you're not like filling your face up a ton. You don't look like that.
No.
And then your hairline is maintained, because many of my clients, it's been a challenge to work around that hairline, and they even go and have the transplants done, and even so, those don't even take. It's kind of it's.
I was fortunate. I did my research.
Did you have your? Is there something done with the hairline?
I did have my hairline advanced slightly. I did not need a lot of procedures. Just minor cosmetic procedures.
But do you think that maybe that's the better way to go for some people?
Yes.
Not to overdo it.
Yes, I think a lot of people they want to have this, this utter image of
Textbook beauty.
beauty and femininity, and
Right.
that's just not reality.
Not for
It's
any of us.
Not for trans women, and not for even cis women. I mean, we're all different. We all have, our own beauty that we possess. We're all not going to have the same faces or the same body shape. Some of us are going to be heavier than others. Some of us are going to be thinner than others. Some of us are going to be more shapely. That's just the way the world is. And so recognizing that and being comfortable with that
Yes, I think it's the confidence that you feel
is something
and how you
that,
carry
yes,
yourself.
is something that you should be cognizant of when you're transitioning, so that you don't get disappointed with results and or end up spending money that maybe you didn't have to spend. Maybe you could have worked on your diet, your lifestyle, and maybe achieved a decent look that you were kind of going for, whatever that may be.
Something comfortable for you.
Yes, and so that's the thing, and really it's the research, because there are many doctors out there, who will perform facial surgery. Some of them are good, and some of them are not so good. Some of them are expensive, very expensive, and a lot of them, from when I was doing my research, I saw that a lot of their clients were younger girls who really didn't need a lot of work.
So that's a much easier.
So it's much easier and of course you're going to get fantastic results, because they were very
Who needs surgery at that age, right?
they were very pretty prior. I mean, I was I was passable even prior to surgery.
I can see where that would be the case. With
So I had no issues.
But it's also you're feminine, and
Yes.
I would love to have a school or courses on how to be feminine.
I think
that's such a big part of it.
I think there is a benefit to that, but I think it's in as when you're genuinely a trans woman. I mean, you're a woman internally, and you're fixing sort of some external features, to bring all that into balance.
But what I do think is living life suppressed, so many have learned how to act more like a man. And when I say feminine, I'm not saying just how to cross your legs, just certain ways, subtle nuances of a woman. And some could benefit, not all. Some people have that innately in them that they are feminine. But for me, when I work with some of my clients, I actually feel like I'm doing charm school. And they ask me, a lot of my clients will just ask me, or they'll text me, or they'll do makeup lessons, and they learn how to do their own makeup and send me pictures, which is just super exciting. I love it, and it's really rewarding for me.
Well, I mean, you're right. There are some that could benefit. I've met a few myself that they're asking me, and and I don't know how to, sort of direct them in that,
Well, that's what I'm saying. If there was
you know,
something specifically,
but there are probably people out there that can offer that sort of
but
guidance.
not. So this is going to get into something that may be a little controversial, but there are places, and I've done shows, which is supposed to be a mix, of LGBTQ, but mostly trans. And I've attended these events, and what's happened is there's vendors there. The vendors take it to another extreme. They'll take wigs and do these huge teases in a wig, and then the people will try them on and walk around with high heels, overdoing their sexuality and what they consider to be feminine. And then it takes us to what I was mentioning, which is controversial, is I view the cross-dressing group and the drag group and the trans group very differently. To me, I feel that I can speak as an expert. The drag group, and I think you know this too, they're comfortable in their own skin, on and off, doing whatever they want to do. I do believe, and this is not all cross-dressers, but some of them, they don't take it as serious. They wear the large wigs. They wear the super high stripper heels. Maybe a wig from Spencer's. I don't mean to be knocking them, but
Right.
it's really tough because for me, I don't want them hitting on me as a woman. And when I would attend these shows, they would just come up and be very over-sexual, and it sort of turned me off to the point that I didn't want to do it anymore. I won't do the shows anymore. And then my niche developed where I met people like you that took this really serious, and I saw that there was much more to it. So I think it I think it confuses people in the general public that don't know a lot about this.
Yes, there is a separation line between someone who's, and I use the term genuinely trans. And I mean, some people may find that offensive and have issue with that, and I'm sorry, but it is what it is. And there are people who are cross-dressers, and they enjoy, for whatever reason, maybe it's a fetish, I don't know.
But to each his own.
Yeah, and and yeah, that's your business.
But the problem is they're mixed a lot.
They are, and so, and they don't want to be women. They like being men. But they like to dress as women, and and
it's really
behave
exciting
in certain ways. And I never thought that way.
Well, you don't even
Yeah.
date men.
No, I don't date men. And I remember I went to one of those events, and someone commented to me, and when they found out that I was missing some parts, they were completely disinterested in me.
Yeah, so it's I know. I don't want to say
And,
exactly what.
And that's what
what
I
the
said. I
quote
says,
is.
"Oh, I'm missing a few parts."
You told them?
Yeah, and they just tucked their head down.
So let's
and
be
walked
honest.
away.
They want the anatomy of a male
I
anatomy.
think so.
Yeah.
I didn't get in that. It didn't even go any further than
Right.
that. It was like somebody yelled fire and he ran.
Like I said, to each his own.
But
But
so
I don't think it's fair
it's not
to
because
people who really want to be a woman, born in the wrong body initially at
know,
birth.
Because you're right. Because society does look at that and say, "Hold on a second. This is where we have an issue," because this is where the people bring up the bathroom issues. You're looking in this way, and you do not look like a woman.
No.
And now you're wondering why, you maybe you got assaulted, by some guy or women, and you put yourself in this position where you created this harm. And all the trans girls that I know, never, myself included, we did not use the restrooms until we couldn't use a men's room, until it wasn't safe for us to use a men's room.
Correct. Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
and 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 I mean, we never had any issues, once we had,
Well, I think in Massachusetts we're lucky.
right. But I'm just saying, even in Massachusetts, I still wouldn't, all the girls
Oh, I
that I know,
understand. Yeah.
even though we could have if we wanted, you know, but it's, you know what I mean? Like we didn't feel
You do not
safe.
belong in a men's room.
Yeah.
I
I couldn't use the
honestly.
men's room right now. Are you
No,
crazy?
never.
Imagine, I think about that too,
Yeah.
like when I hear comments about that. Like, can you imagine looking some 8-year-old if I walked in
Or
there?
or
Yeah.
or even an adult male.
The trauma that, it'd be the same thing, if I was in the girls' room and I saw, even though I'm trans, if I saw, I would be like, why is this man in the bathroom?
Of course.
Of
course.
and that may sound hypocritical, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. And I agree with you. So we know you went to India. We know that you like a more natural approach to your style. You don't wear a lot of makeup, and I think that works for you. I think, like you said, we have to find our own identity and what works best.
You too.
Let's talk about your hair.
I love it.
Well, we have to take credit. I don't personally do your hair, but Yodit at our salon does.
Excellent.
She is
Excellent.
She's very fond of you. What I love is you have a lot of your own hair, which is great because I don't always see that. But did you start out wearing wigs?
I did. I started out wearing wigs, and I think everybody should have a wig in their wardrobe. I mean,
Why not?
straight women and trans women. I mean,
I agree.
who knows? You want to change? You want to go from a blonde to a brunette? For a night. I mean, Kim Kardashian does it.
All the time.
So
You could have pink hair for the night.
But I was very lucky, in the fact that I did have my hair, and my hair grows, and but I take care of myself. I eat healthy. I take the right vitamins and things like that. I don't abuse my body, and I never have. And so that's granted me a lot of privilege, as I've grown older.
What I think is cool about your hair is you've actually let your natural color grow in, which is like the whitish platinum color, which is so hugely popular
I
these
think
days.
it's so beautiful. I love when I
Yeah.
see women in their 50s, 60s, not coloring their hair. And I was tempted to color my hair, and I decided not to. Seeing those images of those older women, and just representing themselves and their beauty and their current state, really, moved me to just, to emulate them in that way, as far as keeping my look as natural as I.
But let me tell you,
possible.
people pay a lot of money to have that color hair. If I had to go to that color, I would have to bleach the heck out of my hair. It's literally a beautiful silvery white. And then, of course, we match extensions to that.
Yes.
And it just, it's a great look. And your extensions are a nice length. It's just natural. You kind of wear it like a easy, breezy, wavy look.
I love a beachy.
It is very
look,
beachy. Yeah.
because I can go from the beach, which I have. I love the beach and the ocean, and so I have gone from the beach to an elegant dinner out.
And that style can carry you all the way.
And so my attire is sort of reflective of that fashion. I like to have a sort of midline where I can go from a beach image to maybe throwing on a pair of heels or a pair of flats or something like that, and look, I could walk into any elegant restaurant.
And that's how it is for all of us, all of
Yes.
us girls.
And we all want to feel, beautiful and attractive, and
You're making it work.
yeah.
Yeah. I am so glad that I got the opportunity to speak with you. I know we've had many conversations, and you've traveled a distance in the crazy Boston traffic to get
I
to
love it
us.
out here, though. I love
Yeah.
the atmosphere and the people when I come out here. I love the
Yeah, because you're
the
in the western
scenery.
part of the state, so it's a little different for
It's
you.
a little different.
Little different.
Yeah, I live out in the country, and
And we're Boston chicks over here, so we're a
Yeah, you
little
guys-
more rough, a little more rough and tumble. But I really do appreciate you coming in and sharing your tips. And I will be posting pictures of you on our social networks. Unfortunately, Aurora could not make it today, and she is really sad about that. But she'll be on our next podcast where we'll be talking about hair loss. And there's some really cool procedures out there to make hair grow without having to do hair transplants. It's great for everybody, male and female. And
yeah, we all want beautiful hair.
we all want beautiful hair. And we're also going to be covering the latest advancements, even in skincare, some things that are really cutting edge, mixing Xeomin or Botox with fillers and stamping it into the skin. Really cool stuff.
I am a firm believer in Botox.
I think that everybody's a firm believer in Botox.
Oh, yes.
But mixing it together and having it like sort of stamped into the skin is really cool sounding.
It is. That's something they actually do in India when I was there.
Really?
They're very pioneer in their procedures when it comes to femininity and cosmetics, upgrades to men and women for that matter.
Sure.
And the surgeon, as I said, to Lang, who I went and saw, he's very involved in that sort of in those methods. And so it's definitely something that can help someone achieve maybe a desired look without maybe going through feminization surgery. Maybe they don't need a lot of stuff. Maybe it could be just some
Yeah, I think there's a place
fillers.
for it. You know,
Yes.
I think there's a place for everything. If you don't have to go through surgery, well, that would be nice. But it's funny that you mention India because I run a Facebook group, and it's for hair loss, trichotillomania, people that pull out their own hair, and it's for support, and it's also for new ideas and innovations. So many of our members are actually from India.
that
And
is
that
that's
just
amazing.
dawned on me that they're,
Wow.
yeah, a lot of them, you don't have to go to India for this though.
No. and India is such a fascinating country because trans people many years ago prior to colonialism were worshipped as demigods.
Really?
Yes, they were.
I have to read about that.
Yes,
Very
Lord
interesting.
Shiva could present
Oh, yes.
himself in the form of a man or a woman.
Well, I think that goes through in mythology too.
There's a lot of mythology in that
I
country.
mean, it just didn't come out just in India. It just hasn't come
No,
out today.
it's-
This is
it's cultural.
it's cultural
across
and
the globe.
across the globe, timeless. Just like homosexuality. I mean, it's been around forever. We're
yeah,
fooling
you
ourselves to think that this is something quote unquote new.
It's not new.
No, nothing under the sun is new.
No, it's not.
But you look gorgeous. I love that you came,
Thank
and I
you.
so appreciate it. And I'll see you at the salon. Stay tuned for next week's podcast. We look forward to hearing any comments or opinions, and thank you very much.